Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and this podcast is a long time coming. I'm here with Joe748 and ByrnenDownTheHouse. How you doing, Burnin?
I did it. I made $1 million, baby.
Long time coming, but not that long.
No, not that long.
No. I never thought that I would make $1 million, and let alone in that amount of time. So, not bad for coming from two public school teaching parents that didn't even make six figures together. So, yeah. Thank you, Blackjack. Thank you, casinos.
So we met with you, what was it, like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think is so. I consider my career to be 3.5 years. First year was kind of lower stakes that I don't really include. So yeah, and then the first one was a year after. So yeah, like we did one, I think 1 year into it, and then 2 years into it. So the last time was about 2 years ago, I think.
And you said you'd come back if you passed $1 million, and you did.
Here I am.
And when I heard that you passed, I was happy for you. But then I was afraid that you were going to immediately take like a 6-figure nosedive. How's it gone since then?
I've come up a little bit more, just like 10K or so, but yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I waited before I told anyone till it was like 1,091,000 instead of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I literally hit 1,500,000. And I was like, I did it.
You knew.
I did swing down under it, but then the end of that trip, I swung up plus some. But yeah, it's all good. I can say I did it. I did it. Even if I swing down again, it'll pop back up.
You stay at a 500-hour break-in, right above, right below.
Oh my
not
God,
million.
that would happen. Oh, it's nauseating.
And it's all just a number, but still, like emotionally, that would be.
So I actually did come up 1,000 away from it, and then I had that $40,000 hit in like a few hours, and I was like, why does this happen to me? And my wife was like, yeah, it's just blackjack. I'm like, you're right, all right.
So what has the last 2 years been like for you?
So the last 2 years have been interesting.
Actually, can we back up? So for those first 2 years of your career, I remember it started, you kind of grew bankroll. You had a pretty big break-even stretch, like 400 and something hours. And that was when we first interviewed, was after that.
Right after that, yeah.
And then year 2 was a lot better than year 1. And a lot of that was, it was started during COVID, like, things are locked. You're getting cheap hotels and flights and all that stuff. But last time I think you were doing a lot of trips by yourself, like 4 or 5 day trips. Has it just been more of that?
So no, actually. So for a year now, the family and I have just been traveling. It started off like 6 months in the States, just living out of hotels and camping and driving all around and into Canada some. And then for the last 6 months, we were international. We went halfway around the world. I wanted to say, Blackjack took us all the way around the world, but it took us halfway. We kind of there just weren't enough games to justify the expenses. And combined with that, my wife and I just looked at each other one day and I was like, I think I'm getting a little tired. And she was like, me too. And we were like, all right, well, no worries. We don't have to force this trip around the world on ourselves. We can pick it up and continue another time. So yeah, the last year's been a lot more travel and playing all along the way. So it's been interesting. And with the EV that I'm generating now, we can actually enjoy it a little more. Let's stay at nicer places, turn the travels into a bit more of an experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting because a lot of people, it's like, well, let me make the money so then I can do the things that I would want to do, even like with my family. But you're like, no, flip that.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll get into a little bit of the story, but the blackjack ball, not last year, but the year previously, the night before, my wife was, I think, 7 months pregnant. And so I just flew out by myself to come to Vegas and do the blackjack ball. And in that time, the night before the blackjack ball, my wife called me and told me some guy who's looked like he was on drugs was banging on the window and trying to get into the house. And I was like, what do you mean? Hang up, call the cops. So she hangs up, she calls the cops. Apparently he had disappeared. And then I get a notification on my phone from a Ring camera in our backyard. And this guy's just looks all cracked out, climbing our fence. And then he runs up to the house and out of vision of the camera. And then I'm trying to call my wife for like 10 minutes. No answer, going right to voicemail. And I was just, terrified for 10 minutes. I thought that guy got in and got my wife. It was like, I remember I was just doing hit and runs on Fremont, and I was in there. I had $3,000 in a bag with like a shirt I'd just taken off, and because I bought one of those tour shirts to change shirts real quick, I threw that bag in a panic. I lost 3,000. When I realized I'd thrown it, I looked around, it was gone. And just to illustrate the state of mind that I was in, it was absolutely terrifying. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, this guy just got my family. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. But then finally, my wife answers. The phone call goes through, and apparently when you're on the phone with like a landline with 911, everything gets routed right to voicemail. So cops get there, blah, blah, blah. They find him. He's in the side yard now. And, they were like, he's just on drugs. We're like, come again? He's like, yeah, they took this guy to where he said he needed to go, didn't even ID him. We went to the police station the next day to get some information. They didn't even file a police report. And that's when we were like, screw this city. We're out of here. So after that happened, we put the house up on Airbnb, and that's when our travels started. And it got me to just think, like, in that moment, like, why do we live the way we do, where we spend our lives making this money, getting away from our family, and then hopefully our family's still there, hopefully our health's still there, and then we have this nest egg, and then we're going to do what we want to do, right? So I was like, well, I want my family to be with me. Let's travel. Let's make the money now and all be together and make memories now and live how we want to be living then now while we're making as much money as we can, which card counting provided for that. And also that crackhead that tried to break in and get my wife inspired this whole outlook and kind of changed our lives for the better. So now that's a cash flowing place, and we got to travel the world playing blackjack and generating great income.
I like that rather than kind of playing the victim, you used it as a way to actually turn a negative into a positive. Like, you get to be with your family, you get to have the travel the world experience as a family because of something bad that happened. There was one guy on the church team, Dusty, that he did that. He was the only guy that he went on trips, and his wife and baby went with him wherever he went. And the rest of us, it was like, oh, these short trips away. But he liked it. He liked it better that way, and I'm glad. Do you feel like it's been good?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really good, to have them there and to be making these memories and having these experiences for, the boy's 4, the girl's a year and a half. She's not going to remember much, but it's nice to be making these memories before we have to be a little bit more in one spot due to schooling or other things like that. But it gets a little more expensive, and it gets a little, when the kids are having a not so good day, it makes, especially airport days, a little more stressful, and when they're both freaking out and things like that. But for the most part, it's really good, and you people a lot of the times like, how in the world do you do that? And I guess it's just because it's all we've known that we're like, we just do it, but I'm sure if you just remove the kids from the picture, but we'd be like, wow, this is a lot easier. But it's all we know, and it's enjoyable, and I enjoy having them with me. I'm just worried about when we do get settled in one spot and I have to go away from them. I hope I don't have like some sort of trauma and anxiety that kind of haunts me from that experience, but I'm sure there'll be something that I'll have to learn to cope with or get over.
Yeah, when you guys are out playing and stuff, let's say some place is just letting you play for a couple of days, what does the family end up doing? Do they just have to find something to do, like in town, wherever you are?
Yeah, we usually, get a place where there's, a hot tub and pool and things like that, other things to do. And my wife's just really good at entertaining and doing fun things with the kids. A lot of the times we would find Airbnbs for like 5 days to a week. So it kind of had like a home setting already too, where, she can cook and they can kind of live as if they're at home. and then we'll go out to dinner or something, or I'll sneak away. We'll do lunch, sort of something like that. But yeah.
I mean, there's so much unpredictability with card counting or advantage play. What do you have any sort of rules like, oh, well, I take these days off, or you just hit it hard and then say, oh, now we're going to have family time for a few days?
Well, I'm super lucky and grateful that my wife has always understood that it is about the EV, and she understands, look, here's the opportunity. You're not going to see me for 3 days. Like, I'm going to just come in and nap and be back out. And she's like, you got to do it. I get it, So the last 6 months, there wasn't so many opportunities like that. I was mostly finding like, okay, shit. Well, all these expenses are, we're traveling the world, it's just like that was always like the fallback. And it was like, okay, shit, I can't just keep doing this. But as far as getting in time is concerned, she's always on the same page. You do what you got to do to generate the EV.
It makes me think there's a lot of careers like a professional athlete, let's say it's a football player. Oh, on a road game, like, okay. And the wife, the kids, they understand that's the job. Or a musician traveling, there are jobs like that, or even business people that have to travel for work, but you don't even have to travel away from them at this point. It's just daddy's working like crazy for a few days.
Right. Yeah. And, I think now generating a higher EV too, it's become like we used to go and just a whole market is just like, I just got banned from every place in like 2 days, and we have the hotel room for like 2 more nights, and be like, get in the car, we have to go. Like, I can't just sit here like, let's do this, we got to do this, and be like, okay. Nowadays it's more like, okay, well, let's just stay here for 2 more days and like, just relax. We're just going to have downtime, blah, 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 and just not generate EV. And, there's different things that are differently prioritized now to have a bit more balance of decreasing the hectic vibes.
Is it hard to get into that relaxation mode? Like, are you just like, oh, I need to get out, I need to play? Like,
depends on what happened.
Yeah.
If I lost my ass terribly and I'm just like, oh, I'm like thinking about it, but I'm getting better and better at shutting that off. Maybe not completely, but it doesn't bother me. It's now I'm just like, oh, I got my ass kicked.
That was hard for me too.
Yeah.
Like, that was like the dream was like, oh, I can travel, internationally and kind of be part vacation, part playing blackjack. But then it's like, it was hard to turn it off on the down days.
A family helps. It does. Cause then you're like, oh, like your kid's like, I love you, daddy. And you're like, oh, love you too, dude. In the upswings, not a problem at all. I'm like, hey, daddy's back. What do you want? You want some candy? Like it's just like, you're just like, you're like, it's not hard to be up and, but yeah, when you get your ass kicked and then it's like you have no place to play, and then you got this place for 2 days, it takes a little bit more effort to be like centered and the person that your family probably wants you to be.
So you upped your stakes as your bankroll's grown since last time we talked to you.
Yeah.
What has that been like, both emotionally but also just logistically?
Logistically, honestly, the realization when I decided to do that, I think I was doing 2 by 1,000 for too long. I should have upped it sooner. And I had to look at it and I was like, what are you doing? Like, I started actually plugging in like numbers of money, like still even not the total amount that I have at my disposal. And I was just like, why am I still betting? And I realized that I was just getting complacent, and like everything that I want to be in that I preach was like, I wasn't expanding it just because I think I was just getting complacent with it, and like, oh, like this, I'm used to this now. Like, and I think for a year I did that a little bit too long. I should have gone to 2 by 2,000 longer ago, but now that I have, it's more exciting again, and it's there's more growth again. Like, I feel like I'm growing in, and I'm not going to get sleepy with my progressively and actively managing my increase in EV. Like, I definitely want to keep it at a level where it feels challenging to me emotionally, but still it's not a risk, to my bankroll.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be challenging emotionally no matter what.
See, that's the thing. Yeah. And that is the thing. It's the cards, right? Like, and I was talking to my wife about this. I talked to a few people about this last night too. It's like, if you get beat terribly, it's awful. You're like, how dealer 21 10 times in a row? Like, what is this shit? And that is going to be frustrating no matter what. And if my bankroll can tolerate it, why not just have the numbers be bigger up and down?
Aren't you CTRing every shoe?
So I just had my first session in the States at this, and I CTR'd in 15 minutes. And then I gave him my ID just because I was like, oh, it's like such a high count. Immediately I knew something was wrong. And then I lost 4,000 more, and I was like, damn it. And then there was commotion, and I just left before something happened that was inevitable. And then the other place I was at, the max was 1,000. So I'm maxing way earlier when it's 1,000 now, but I'm still new to playing in the States where I'm going to CTR. So we'll see how that goes. But I would imagine it's going to require more planning ahead, maybe even my wife helping out with going in and getting some chips, and then myself getting chips too.
So far, you're doing the 2x2000 like internationally more than here so far.
Yes.
Well, okay, cool.
Is there anything you can share about differences international play versus US? I don't mean like conditions, but just experientially.
A big difference is a lot of places outside of the US respect a good player, even though they might give you the boot or like ban you or bar you as they do in the UK, and then it applies for the whole chain. Very seldomly are you treated disrespectfully and like rudely. It's more like, no, this guy's a good player. Like, it's not like how they just say it here where it's just like a little canned thing, like, you're a great player. Well, it's like, they're like, you feel respect. I do.
They say, sir.
Yeah, sir. But no, but generally game conditions are not as good too. I mean, you can get to random places around the world where you find like 2-to-1 payout on like, black or red, whatever, things like that. And it's like not a promotion. And you're like, what? This is crazy. But, I mean, I think that's kind of like the biggest difference, to be honest, is the quality of games here is better. But, I found more opportunities where I could grind.
Seems like you're getting more time.
States, yeah.
I'm imagining someone listening and being like, oh, okay. So last time, I don't know how much you were up, 500,000, something like that. Oh, okay. Just straight climb up to $1 million. But I'm sure that's not the truth. What has it just been like zen and you're in it? Or there have been times where you've wanted to throw in the towel? And
yeah, many times I've gone through it, where, you just feel like giving up and feel like you're never going to be able to get in time or all this and that. And it seems daunting when I look back on like all I've done. And it also seems daunting when I look forward and like, oh shit, this is going to be a lot of work. This is a lot of trial and error. Still, even doing it as long as I've done it, as hard as I've gone, it still seems daunting. So more and more though, I think the evolution of this has been to just remain in the moment and just be like, okay, this is going to require a lot of work. I'm going to have to get around. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to go through these swings, these intense ups and downs. But you're going to have to just take it one casino, one session at a time. When I bring myself back to that, then I look back and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I pulled myself out of that one or this or that. But yeah, it is honestly mostly mental game at this point. And I think acknowledging that, and for people to understand that once your game is together and you're properly managing your risk, those moments that you feel like you want to give up or you feel like it's impossible are definitely mentally always going to be there, but that's what they are. They're mental. It doesn't actually have to be that way in reality. Doesn't mean it will be, but when we trick ourselves into thinking that this outlook we presently have due to this terrible thing that just happened, whether it's a trespass or a terrible downswing, doesn't necessarily mean that that's your reality for the next however long future. It's just, I feel like you just end up succumbing to these stresses that this grind can bring to your mind.
what kind of swings have you had as far as hours or dollar? You're going up to 2x2000, which the church team, that was a lot of what we did for quite a while was 2x2000. We'd have 6-figure swings.
Yeah.
Not in a day, but
right. Yeah. I see that weekly.
I can imagine there's a lot of people listening. They're like, jealous. Oh, I want to do that. But it takes a strong stomach.
Yeah. Once again, I feel like once you've done it for a while, it's easier to hang your hat on just being like, turn the brain off during this downswing. Like, doesn't mean it's not incredibly frustrating and like stressful sometimes, especially adding all the expenses that I incur with the travel with the family internationally and stuff. But if you can get there, that's a practice that I think everyone should include along with doing the BJA test outs and, like adding deviations, like speed counting, all these things. Practices should be mental practices as well. I truly think that is a big missing link in a lot of people that are new and have been playing for quite some time too, that if you're overlooking that, it's going to make the grind feel like harder than it needs to be. And I'm still guilty of it, from time to time. But
was the decision to play internationally, was it because you felt like you weren't getting in enough time in the US, or was it other factors bringing you over there?
Oh, yeah. When you get heated in the States, it can start to feel pretty impossible. So that mixed with the genuine, want and desire to travel, my desire and also my wife's desire, we decided to just go do that and check out the games and see more of the world.
Besides you having to like find a game that's good enough internationally, but once you do, they let you hammer away. Are there any other cons to playing that kind of game versus playing in the US? Like, is there something about the way they set up like that's not as good as the US?
I guess it depends on where you're playing. I guess if I understand the question correctly, like maybe I would say if you do get banned from a chain in the UK, I mean, you're banned from the chain. It's not like here where it's like, you can't come here, like Caesars tells you that or MGM tells you that. You're trespassed. It's like, don't go to any other properties. And then you go there and they just tell you the same thing again and trespass you again. But you got in, a few days or like few hours at this property. Like it's not like that. Like in the UK, you are barred. And actually, I ran into other chains in Europe that were like that as well.
Because it's a club, so you can't just kind of sneak in and play a little blackjack.
Right. Yeah. A lot of these places, and there's some in Europe too, where you have to give your card or your ID like when you walk in, and they will look up right there and be like, you can't come in here.
Yeah, it's not like the US where they just have a guy at a podium and he just checks your age. It's like when you go to subway or metro where they have like the barricade, the gates. Yeah, the turnstile, and then you have to
you're
show
not getting
to
in,
get it. Yeah.
But they check your profile and see that. For that, it's game protection and the chains that I experienced that with Europe, but there's more involved, like the safe gambling laws in the UK that they have to scan it for to just make sure, like if you lost a certain amount, you got to do an interview with someone like a casino manager on duty, and he has to make sure you're not going to blow your head off or something. It's like kind of awkward. And I'm like, I'm not going to, just let me play. Like I've lost way more. It's frustrating too when you're on a downswing there too. It's so funny because then you have to interview about your mental state, and I'm just like, I'm good, and you're already pissed off that like you're down so much at this casino, and then you got to do this interview, and you have to like, and if you show that you're pissed, they're like, sorry, you're gonna have to take a little time off. You're like, so you get there and you're just like, hey, how's it going? Oh, no, it's great. Yeah, last time, lost 30K. I've lost so much more than that before, though, but it'll come back. I'm good, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes you got to show bank statements. It's crazy. But, that's very unique to the UK. And then, also the barring of the chains that I experienced in Europe are starkly different from the US.
What's the tipping culture like over there? Or other countries you've played too? Like, is it way less tip hustling and...
They don't tip hustle much over there. If I have some big wins, like I'll tip, like if, I'm splitting tens, max bets all out there, and I'll usually tip like a black chip. So,
How do you know you're not tipping more than your EV on that hand?
Oh, on that hand? I mean, the thing is, I'm sure I am, but if my EV's $600 an hour, and I played there for 3 hours, so that's, 1,800, and then, just toss a black chip every few hours. Like, I'm okay with that. Honestly, if they're letting me play and they're nice and they're fast, I make a comment about them dealing fast and they're like, oh, you like that? And they like deal faster. Like, I'm going to take care of them. There's things like that too, where then it's increasing your EV even more.
What about the currency exchange? Is that like a total pain in the ass?
That's a whole other expense. That's like an expense of the bankroll, because then you're losing money every time you exchange. And then dealing with cash in Europe, it wasn't as strict about cash, but oh my God, the UK's like, they are just like, they grill you so hard. If you have $3,000 in your pocket, they're like, why do you have this cash? I'm like, I'm American. Like, fuck off. You know, like at first I was like, oh, and then I was like, don't make me feel guilty just for having cash. But that's like the culture over there. It's crazy. And after a while I got like, stop bothering me, you know, like about it. You know, it's like, I was like, it shouldn't be illegal to have a bunch of cash, you know, and that's that. So, but back to the currency, that was an issue too, that just reminded me of just having, you know, cash in other currencies in other countries. But the exchange rates, you know, you got to start shopping for exchange rates and then you got to go, well, how much realistically do I need to exchange because of these swings? And you got to calculate that because you don't want to overdo it and then lose too much money in the exchange rate. So, but basically I found when you go to a place that is more local, I found in the areas of England that were like Arabs, like a lot of Arab communities, had the best exchange rates by far. Almost everywhere I went, every country I went. I don't know why that is, but I mean, massively different, which would translate to me losing a couple hundred instead of a couple thousand. When I was in Macedonia, it was interesting because you couldn't take out more money than you came in with.
Oh,
yeah, which is really interesting. So I did really well there, and I was like, well, what the hell do I do now? And then it was the first time I ever used Bitcoin, like practically, because it's completely like unregulated there. So you go in, I didn't even show my ID, and I bought $50,000 worth of Bitcoin, and they just transferred it right to my crypto account. Yeah, and I lost 1,200 in that transaction, but that's still pretty decent considering you're transferring that amount of money, like completely not showing any documentation for it. So actually, when we were completely done with that whole area of the world, before we flew out of there into the next area that we went to, we flew back to Macedonia, and the next trip that we were going to was just going to be visiting my wife's family, and I unloaded 120,000 into Bitcoin from Macedonia right to my account, and I was just like, just like wiped my hands off. I was like, nice. But, you know, it went into a regulated account. It's not like I'm like, you know, it's not accounted for. It's, you know, it's an account that's registered with my ID and everything. But on that end, I didn't have to go through any headaches of like questioning me where it came from and blah, blah, blah. So, but that was probably the most unique thing. And I'm glad I kept that Bitcoin. It just made a new all-time high last night. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, but I know it's just been on by the time this is listened to, who knows? But I know it has.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be like, I hope he didn't hold that. It's
bull run.
It lost like 80% by the time this podcast listened to. That's how crypto goes.
You had last time this goal of $1 million, and people have read Tales from the Felt, which if you haven't, what's your problem? Buy a copy.
Really cool of you to put that together, man. That was a really nice work of art for our community. It was really cool.
I'm really proud of it. It was fun, really fun to work on. The stories are great, but you have a story in there that shows the human personal reason why. Mm-hmm. But then also last time we talked, you had kind of just like, hey, this is the goal, and then put it into real estate. But now you're saying you're still going. What's switched?
I can still get in time, you know, so I want to keep doing it. And what switched is where we're moving to is incredibly expensive. And I'm like, all right, well, let's see if I can, you know, double down on this. And now the goal is for this year to make $1 million this year. So I don't even know if it's quite possible at this point, but I'm going for it. I'm on target for it, for what I'm up for at this moment for the year. It's interesting, though. Your question is kind of like inspired something else for me to say, is that it was like the moment, too. It was like, I think even the next day, when I hit $1 million, I was like, I'm going for $1 million in a year now, you know? And it was like, okay, well, this needs to have some practicality and some application for why I'm going for this. And it's like, okay, I want to afford a home in this area of the world, you know, and then, you know, set aside this cash, you know, to maybe start investing in other things. But it also is like this part of our minds and our endeavors is insatiable. It was just so clear to me that it's like you'll never find something that is going to be satiated by creating these goals. So it's like kind of like a cautionary tale too of how that happened so quickly. Like now, here's now my goal next. What's next? 3 million next year. It's like I can easily see how people get lost in that. You know what I mean? And it's got to be like kind of a cautionary tale, and also where does it start to just be able to be more passive, But I just spent all this time with the family generating this, so it's like maybe I'll generate a little bit more, like a little bit away from them.
There's the whole FIRE movement, financially independent, retire early movement. People that like live very frugally and make as much as they can, so then they retire in their 30s or whatever, 30s or 40s. That was a big thing. I mean, it's still a big thing, but a lot of people were passionate about that 10 years ago, and then they do, and a lot of those people are realizing, I'm bored.
I was just gonna say, what is retirement?
Yeah,
I don't think I can ever retire. Like, I just don't think I can. I need to focus on something, like, and find myself working towards something. What do you think retirement means?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, there are other studies that just even people that are later on in life that retire and get kind of depressed because they don't have purpose. They don't have meaning.
Yeah.
And I think there is a balance between workaholism. There's an in-between workaholism and meaningless, like, I am just going to do nothing. Like, I don't think we're made for either of those. And so it is saying like, well, yeah, I kind of had this a couple of years ago where, I could have just tried to get BJ on autopilot and not really do anything. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. I enjoy growing things, working on things, seeing things, even like software we make better, or it's just fun. It's fun. Now, I don't want to be a workaholic. I want to do things, in a way that's healthy for my family, but I don't want to do nothing. I would be depressed.
What was it? The famous psychologist, was it Carl Jung? I forgot who said it, that fun is like self-actualizing your capabilities. I'm kind of quoting that wrong, but that's basically the idea. It's like, like overcoming your obstacles or actualizing your full potential. And I think one of the things is definitely growth and challenging, and that comes from hard work. But I think where you can also always grow and challenge yourself is being a better husband, being a better friend, being a better parent. And when you do focus and look at it like that, and there's challenges all over there. Everyone can find the challenges. It's easier to look away from them. But, I think to bring that balance back is to recognize the challenge and the growth that we're going for in our relationships and in our work.
Not to get too philosophical, but 100%, like, I think what a lot of us think we want is this existence where there's no more hardship. Oh, I've got enough money, there's no more hardship. But there's no life where there isn't hardship. If you try to live that, you are checking out from your family, from your loved ones. Like, relationship means hardship. And so to then say, hey, I'm not trying to avoid hardship, I'm willing to press into it, like, I just think, yeah, some people, they say, oh man, well, if I could just retire, then I could do nothing, and then I'll finally be at peace. Well, you're going to be this like checked out individual.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like what you said, to say like, oh yeah, work hard at things. That's not just to make money, but work hard at being a better father, being a better husband, being a better friend, being a better person.
Yeah, the challenges and growth, like with relationships, makes the love and understanding deeper. And with this grind, it makes your pockets deeper. But I thrive off of pushing myself, sometimes even to the brink, with honestly all that I do. And I think that's where my success has come from with this grind, is that same characteristic of myself that's been there for the other things has gone full blown into this, advantage play with Blackjack. So,
I mean, that's what I love about advantage play is, I mean, there's been so many times on the off time when you're not playing where it feels like you're retired. Like, if you take like a month or two off, you kind of feel like you already have that retirement. And then because like once you stop playing and you're at home, that's it. Like, you don't have emails coming in. You don't have work stuff. Like you're
so
just
true.
relaxing until the next trip you go on. So it's nice because you can still be actively working, but you can still have that like quote unquote retirement leisure feeling.
Yeah, and that's why it's also like, like, why are you going for $1 million in a year now? It's like, that's also part of it too, right? Is that it's like, once we turn it off, there's no money coming in. You know what I mean? Well, from the grind, I got, the Airbnb that we have that cash flows well, but other than that, it's just like, it's off. It's done. So I'm like, so I want to get to a point where I'm like, okay, here we go. This can be turned off for even a year if I want to put it somewhere else, maybe generate some sort of other cash flowing like opportunity. But, at the same token, it is like, all right, you got to keep yourself in check. This isn't an escape, right? This is like the planning for a segue sort of, with whatever bankroll that you're trying to grow.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to, friends, and some of them have like, pretty decent salaries, but they also like their free time is still inundated with work emails and they can't turn it off. And they feel like they have to keep it going all the time to maintain that like decent position. Like,
oh, that sucks. It's a beautiful thing to be able to create our work schedule and put in the hours we want to and don't put in the hours we don't want to, wager the amount of money we want to or don't want to. It's really nice to have that freedom.
But you're right. The reality is every day you don't generate EV. It's just expenses, not income. So it's like you're building towards those passive things or those other investment opportunities through this active grind right now. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because it's like, damn it. Then it's like, what rate is inflation now? And the cost of housing, you're like, shit. You're like always just like, oh, I'm almost there. It's like I'm trailing behind my EV line. I feel like I'm doing that in life with inflation and everything going on right now too. No, it's not that desperate. It's not that. It's not coming from that.
So kind of back to more of the like nuts and bolts of playing the second half of the million. Is there anything besides upping the bet spread, is there anything you've changed in the way you play or habits at the table or this or that?
I mean, it's still just really good old fashioned hard work, doing whatever it takes to get the hours, trying to manage the mental better every day. But, trying to find places that will take action, or at least be sleeping for me to get enough action on the table for long enough. It's been such a unique last 6 months that I just feel kind of like fog brain from it, because it's been so different than the last of my career, going around doing all these international casinos, and sometimes it's like 300 table max, but you can bet all 5 spots, and then or there's other opportunities or other ways that I'm attacking the game of blackjack. But it still hasn't changed. It's still a grind that you really have to work hard to really get compensated for, and to level up with it. But it's been enjoyable to see the amount of EV I can generate and scale. But it's still this. It's the same in the amount of work. I'm glad I haven't gone through any massive break even streaks in a long time. But I mean, I've gone on multiple 150 hours, but I don't consider those long. So anyone who's listening right now, like those are normal. Those are normal. I don't even consider those losing streaks. I do actually, but I don't mention them. It's just like, yep, that just happens.
So I wanted to bring up like a loaded topic. Now, part of your act, which I think has worked to your benefit very well, is part of like cover and act as like drinking at the table, right? But with that, it can be such a powerful thing when the pit looks at someone that they suspect is counting and they're drinking, and it's just like they write you off immediately. Like it's such a strong cover play. But on the flip side, it could also end up being like really dangerous for the card counter. It's like, how have you used that, but also kept it in check and still made sure you've been profitable? Like all this stuff.
So, my game's always 100%. We should do a YouTube video. I'll wear a mask. I'll get hammered, and you guys play. We'll test it out. My game is 100%, no matter how drunk I got. But
like, what does that look like at the table? Like, do you start off? Do you show up to the table with something?
I finished a bottle of scotch in one night.
Oh my gosh.
The bartender came over to me and he was like, he held up an empty bottle of scotch and he was like, "You finished this." And I was like, "Oh shit, I did. Whoops." I've had 10 to 15 scotches, while playing. It just makes me like more animated at the table. And the dealers enjoy dealing to me because I'm being funny and fun and animated. And the pit's just like, this guy fucking drank 15 fucking like they're just like, what? And and binge drinking has been a problem for me for like on and off in my life. A few months back, my wife and I both completely stopped drinking for 2 months. And man, it felt so healthy, so clear-headed, so just tighter. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It just felt tight. And then the holidays came and started drinking again, but it's not healthy. If I'm being honest with myself, it's not healthy. There's other ways to do it besides that. Not that I was using it as an excuse because I was an everyday drinker anyways, but I just recently quit again, and I'll be quitting for a long time just because I don't want any health complications from it. It's not something that I need, and to end up relying on that as a regular at the table, a regular occurrence, just to drink like that at the table, it ends up becoming a crutch because it does in those days that when I was completely sober and got to the table and went on a really bad downswing. It was like, okay, time to go through the rationale, time to take some deep breaths, get that heart rate down, clear your head, keep playing, which is much healthier for life, much healthier for your mindset and tools that you will build and take with you, right? But when you go, give me the double Johnny Walker, and then that hits your nerves and it calms you down. It starts becoming this crutch too. It's not good for me. And it's time for me to just acknowledge that even though I love drinking, I can do it like on my own. I have before, but now it's time for like a really long break.
Good for you to acknowledge that,
I try to be aware of many things in my life and, which is hard because you got to be open to criticism of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that you're still able to play accurately, but that's because, you were drinking like on a regular basis. So your tolerance was much higher.
Yeah. Now, when I was drinking like that, people that would come to the pit that weren't there and I told them how many drinks I'd had, they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
They just were like, "No, you haven't," because I didn't seem like bombed. But, then the dealer was doing it, like, no, he did. They're like, "What the fuck?" Like,
did you notice a difference in like the 2 months that you were sober? Was it like, oh, now I'm getting backed off nonstop because I'm not drinking at the table?
That didn't affect the rate. No. It wasn't quite as animated as I might have been when I was having a bad session, like animated as in like still kind of making the dealer laugh and like letting it roll off my back. It was a little more difficult to do that sort of thing, but was still able to not be unpleasant. But yeah, I didn't notice much of a difference in the back off rate.
Well, now I'm super curious what the next million, the sober million, is going to feel like and what that...
It's going to be boring. Boring. No, just kidding. No, I honestly think I'm going to learn. I feel like I'm going to have these lessons that are, if you will, like HD in my brain a little bit more and kind of like not as foggy. And I can continue these formations of tools that I come across in my own head. Cause it's almost like when you drink like that, they kind of reset, but I noticed in the 2 months that it was like, whoa, these things that I learned at the table, are like little things that I'll do, to sharpen my game. Sometimes we'll kind of like relearn them again and be like, oh yeah. But when I was not drinking, I noticed they were just like there, a little sharper on recall, a little thing. So, I think although I was playing, 100% accurate, I think I was probably crippling growth a little bit by doing that. But also it was like self-medicating. So, but I think just ripping off the Band-Aid and having more healthier ways to manage that is going to be massive for myself.
I've heard, yeah, like when you get comfortable using something else to like just tone down the feelings, then when you take that thing away, you really have to learn how to feel the feelings, fully feel the feelings, because you don't have that thing to just kind of like tone them down.
Right. Yeah. I would imagine it's going to, and it was, I remember from when I went, like, did the 2 months a few months ago, like it was more intense too. At the table, I was like, oh, nice. I see how much like drinking was kind of numbing that a little bit.
But I think, like, thinking optimistically, but also I think in the future, like after the 2 months, when you do it again, I think your baseline's it's not gonna be as intense over 4 or 5, 6. Like you're gonna get used to that. Like, yeah,
for sure. And I mean, playing this long, and like it took a while for playing like this to like give myself the credit, right? It's like my wife and I joke, and she's like, when I go on a big downswing and I seem a little bummed about it, and then she's like, seeing how I'll respond. Now I'm like, I'm fucking burning down the house, baby. This is good. And she like laughs at me. I'm like, I know, I'm just kidding. But like, but like the experience of like doing all this for long enough, like has like even proven to myself to be like, dude, you've done enough there, baby pants. Like you've done this enough. Let's settle down, find a little equilibrium.
Thanks so much for filling us in on, this 2 years ago or whatever it was, this theoretical, like, oh, well, if you get here, we'll talk again. Well, now we're here, and seeing how your perspective's changed and like the stories you've added to it, and being really vulnerable with us about all of it. Like, really appreciate that honesty and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you creating a community where, other people have been vulnerable and have helped out to me. And this whole thing with the journey, I guess I'm just going to kind of stop it at like the 1 million mark, but I wanted to give something back to the community where they could see that this could be done. And I wanted to be extremely transparent and vulnerable to just be like, look, I'm just a dude. I did this. Yeah, I went really hard, and like, I'm going to keep going hard, but it can be done. Because when I had that almost 500-hour losing streak right out the gate, I was like scouring the forum, and I was just like, where are the numbers? Where are the charts? Like, what the fuck is happening to me? And I just remember in that, like, getting a lot of support. And I always told myself, I was like, I'm going to be incredible. If I become one of these people on here that like I look up to, and I'm just a pissant to them now, like if I become one of these figures in this forum and in this community of card counting and AP at large, I want to give them the gift that I wish I had when I was going through that. And, I feel glad and honored to have been able to do that. And now I do feel like I'm going to take a little bit more of like I'm not going to give like the annual records anymore, but I did want to give that to the community, that which I wish I had seen when I was doubting everything.
Thanks for making good on that.
Yeah, man. Thank you for making BJA. It's been a huge help.
My pleasure.
Also, if anyone would like to follow along with my card counting journey, you can do so by following me on Twitter at BDTH21. Also, if you'd like to email me, same thing, just BDTH21@gmail.com. Thank you.
Well, we'll end there, and I think there's going to be another bonus podcast.
Boner podcast.
Oh, yeah. To learn more about card counting, check out BlackjackApprenticeship.com.